Okay, I'm Benedict or Aminer, a convener of Center for Rights, Education, Governance and Development. I'm supposed to be making a presentation in line with the human rights and legal rights from a community perspective. I'll first start by maybe highlighting on some of the legal frameworks and instruments that support issues of access to justice. And maybe most of my presentation will focus basically maybe like even in what is happening in Kenya. If we look at maybe like even some of the legal frameworks that we have locally, we can talk of maybe like even our Constitution of Kenya, 2010. Under the Bill of Rights, that is in Chapter 4, there is the Article 48 that states that the state shall ensure access to justice for all persons. So basically, maybe like that is one of the starting points when we are talking about the issues of access to justice. We are seeing that maybe that the state have an obligation to ensure that everyone access justice. Then again, maybe like even we look at Chapter 10, that is under the judiciary. We have Article 159 2C that talks of promoting alternative forms of dispute resolution, which include approaches like reconciliation, mediation, arbitration, and maybe like even things like traditional dispute resolution mechanism. Equally, we have other acts of parliament like the witness protection that maybe works around the issues of guaranteeing witnesses their safety and security. We also have the Legal Aid Act that again also focuses around issues of ensuring that the poor access justice. It's supposed to be supporting things like aiding litigants or maybe like even the poor to go about their cases without maybe like even facing any hindrance. We know very well that the cost of maybe like even hiring advocates or maybe like even filing a case in court has been a bit expensive for most of the people. And to be specific, maybe like even those people who cannot afford maybe like even charges that are normally charged by advocates. So the Legal Aid Act is supposed to be working around that, supporting that. It's the law that is coming in to fill in that gap. Then I'll go to the level also of talking about maybe like even some of the platforms, or maybe like even instruments that are also available at the East Africa level. We talk about the East Africa Court of Justice that is based in Arusha. It's available for East African nations, or maybe like even citizens of East African nations, to follow up on maybe like even on issues of access to justice. Again, though this is a continental one, the Africa Court on Human and People's Rights, that is also based in Arusha. But we have seen that maybe like even a number of communities have also used it. I can give an example of the Ogiek community in Kenya that after exploring all the local mechanisms in the country here, and they didn't succeed on the case that they were following up on the violations of their rights to life, property, and things like natural resources, they decided to proceed to the Africa Court on Human and People's Rights in Arusha. And I think around 2017, the court ruled in their favor and said that they were violated, and gave government some directive to ensure that the Ogiek community were able to access their rights, things like maybe like even right to life, property, and natural resources. So those are some of the available mechanisms, or maybe like even some of the legal frameworks and instruments that can support citizens or maybe like even communities in their quest for justice. But I will go ahead to say that despite having these laws and instruments, most people still face challenges in accessing justice. Can give an example that we still hear of reports in delays of cases, maybe like even once they have been filed in court, to the extent that we have had maybe like even victims and maybe like even witnesses opting to withdraw cases because like at times it becomes expensive for them traveling between maybe like even their residential places and maybe like even court stations to go and maybe like even follow up on their matters. Some maybe like even have been following up for several years. So they see it as if maybe like even it will not be possible for them to access justice. So such kind of things, maybe like even those are some of the challenges. There's also the issue of corrupt state officers who still see their offices as wealth creation platforms, whereby they make it difficult for people going to the offices to maybe like even get services in the offices, to see that maybe like even they cannot do without like favor in quotes of those specific officers. So in a way, someone gets frustrated because he wants to get some justice or maybe like even to get some service. They end up agreeing to compromising some of these officers, like maybe like even giving them some tips to give them services which basically are their rights. Then there are also issues of underfunding of state departments. Again, I'll give an example, maybe like even if you look at the police stations, at times when people go there, or maybe like even when a victim goes maybe like even to report a case or maybe like even to get a P3 form, they are told that the station has run out of the P3 forms and like they're expected to go and photocopy outside. The officers will tell you that they have not been funded, or maybe like even they don't have budget line for the same. So it's upon you who needs help to organize for the same. There are also other maybe like even offices that have inadequate human resource. So when you go there, you realize that maybe like even there are so many people going for some services, but what happens? There's no one to serve them, or maybe like even the person that is there maybe has gone for leave, or maybe like even is in other following up on other duties. So yourself, maybe like even if you went there, realize that it will be difficult or like even challenging for you to get timely service. The issue of poor infrastructure is also one of the challenges that affects issues of communication and transport in some parts of the country. There are even some places that people still travel long distance to go to maybe like even courts, meaning that they'll spend a lot along the way, and again maybe like even they'll spend a lot in terms of money, and also maybe like even the issue of time. So people might decide maybe like even just to sit back, because if they imagine traveling to a court like 100 kilometers away or maybe like even kilometers away, they see it as a waste of time. So it becomes a big challenge. There's the low level of public awareness of existence of places or offices where they can get help. We have those offices, maybe like even some of them near us, but members of the public still lack information on maybe like even what takes place in such offices. Issue of poverty is also another challenge. Remember during COVID pandemic breakdown, most courts were operating virtually. Unfortunately, some of the litigants could not even have airtime to facilitate their link with courts, or some even lacked Android phones, laptops, or maybe like even monies to take them to the cyber caves, so that at least maybe like even they can follow up their cases virtually. But again, maybe like even if you imagine someone going to listen or maybe like even to follow up on his or her case in a cyber cave, there's the issue of privacy or code of confidentiality. meaning that maybe like even we need some of these facilities around us. Again, there's the issue of maybe like even most police stations lack standard gender and child protection units, which we see that maybe like even hinder issue of access to justice, maybe like even for children who have been violated, or maybe like even any victim of gender-based violence. If you go to some of the police stations, like you could realize that maybe like even an investigation office is also maybe like even used as a gender and a child protection unit. So maybe like even the issue of privacy for this victim, maybe this person who had been defiled, or maybe like even someone who was raped, becomes a challenge. Okay, I'll mention that maybe like even we have the laws that maybe like even I mentioned initially. But again, maybe like even it's important that maybe like even I mentioned that what has been implemented based on the laws that I mentioned. Okay, maybe like even something positive that I would say that we have a transformed judiciary. If we compared with what we used to have before the 2010 Constitution, at least we can appreciate that there are some reforms, or like even some challenges, some not challenges, but some good progress. Then there's the issue of Judicial Service Commission, which is a bit independent, so less interference with maybe like even judiciary operations. Then the increased number of judges and magistrates, and again more courts being built to address the gaps in access to justice. At least maybe like even would say that some of the places that never used to have courts will have courts, so that at least the people are able maybe like even to file their cases, or maybe like even to follow up on their issues. Then again, maybe like even there's the piloting of the alternative justice system policy. I remember recently the Chief Justice was in Kajiado launching the alternative justice system initiatives in that area. I'd mentioned initially about the issue of Article 159(2)(c) that allows the issue of the alternative dispute resolution mechanism. So the alternative justice system policy comes in here. Then another effort that maybe like even positive one that I would say that also maybe like even trying to bring justice closer to the people is the issue of piloting of small claims court. It started with Nairobi, and again recently at least I saw the judiciary launched more small claims courts in other parts of the country, like maybe like even places like Kisumu. I guess Nakuru is also one of the places, and Mombasa, where we'll have those small claims courts. This never used to be there. Then again, maybe like even the ongoing amendment of Children's Act, we expect maybe like even this will help maybe like even issues of child protection and access to justice for maybe like even minors. Then the issue of the formation of the court users committees that is going on, or maybe like even has been actualized in most of our courts. Then the enactment of the Legal Aid Act that I had mentioned initially. Again, maybe like even efforts by maybe like even that were made, whereby we had maybe like even ODPP facing out police prosecutors and replacing them with advocates, of which maybe like even we can have at least two prosecutors per court. Then I'll have my recommendations in regards to maybe like even challenges that we had. And again, I'll say that maybe like even besides those positive steps that have been made by the government or maybe like even respective agencies, a lot still need to be done. And my recommendations are as follows: that maybe like even we need to lobby our leaders to push for the fast tracking of rollout of legal aid, that maybe like even targets to support the poor in quest for justice, because there's one thing in maybe like even coming up with the law, like we have the Legal Aid Act, and maybe like even now funding it to ensure that it meets the objective. Yes, we have the Legal Aid Act, but it has not been rolled out so that at least it reaches the poor. We have those systems, we have the legal aid advisory centers at maybe like even lower levels, so that maybe like even the poor can get the services. So we need to lobby those leaders, those legislators, to ensure that maybe like even this is pushed for, so that at least maybe like even when they are working on their budgets maybe like even takes into consideration issue of the legal aid. Again, maybe like even another recommendation is to lobby our leaders to provide adequate budgets for justice institutions, for example, judiciary, ODPP, Department of Children's Services, the police. Remember when I mentioned about the police challenges at the police station, I talked about maybe like even things like the Gender and Child Protection Unit, which are not standard, does not allow for things like privacy or maybe like even confidentiality. And again, maybe like even issues whereby you are told that you pay for P3 forms. So it's telling you that maybe like even police stations are not funded, maybe like even to make copies of those P3 forms. The Department of Children's Services, which I would say that the Department of Children's Services mostly relies on support from civil society organizations. So you realize that maybe like even, okay, they're giving their services, yes, to their clients, but at the same time, maybe like even with minimal funds, it will be difficult for maybe like even children or maybe like even their families to get justice whenever children are violated, because the children department might not be that effective. Equally, maybe like even ODPP need to add more prosecutors, and that at least maybe like even cases can be expedited. Another recommendation is about maybe like even issue of maybe like even enhancing community awareness to promote legal literacy, because most members of the public are not conversant maybe like even with the law. Realize that maybe like even once someone is arrested, you are intimidated by maybe like even the issue of maybe like even ignorance of the law. You cannot use it as a defense, but you are not aware maybe like even another particular law was enacted. So how will maybe like even you guard yourself against not going against a law that you are not aware that was created? So the issue of maybe like even legal awareness that should be maybe like even supported by government or maybe like even non-state institutions. Then they need to strengthen the ombudsman office in terms of maybe like even funding them, staffing, and maybe like even training them. You will go to some of these offices, realize that maybe like even staffs are there, but people are just maybe like even paid salaries, but they are not facilitated maybe like even to carry out their work. So whenever you report a case to them, what happens maybe like even when they need to come down to you, it becomes a challenge because they have not been maybe like even funded. So they won't be effective. So who suffers? Members of the public or maybe like even citizens, who are the taxpayers, are the ones who suffer. Then again, we have the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which maybe like even at least, okay, they have the regional offices, but it's my thought that we need to devolve these offices to all the 47 counties, so that at least every county has an office of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Then lastly, there's the issue of maybe like even partners like the Law Society of Kenya need to support in strengthening of pro bono legal work to support the poor. As we know, most of us might not be able to fund their cases in court. Then if we have those pro bono lawyers who can support them, then at least maybe like even we'll say that they have succeeded maybe like even one step in maybe like even accessing justice. So basically, those are some of the small highlights that I can give in regards to issue of human rights and legal rights from a community perspective, because we work a lot with the members of the public or maybe like members of the community, and when we talk to them, they highlight to you about their challenges. But again, maybe like even when you talk to the duty bearers also maybe like even talked of some of the challenges that they face that makes it difficult for them to perform their work.